Hello and welcome to your Cancer January 2020 reading. Hi, I'm Nigel Saint James. For those of you who have not met me before, and it's great to see you. And for those of you who have subscribed and continue watching each month, I very much appreciate your loyalty and your continued interest. It really does warm my heart. I'm going to use a deck today, which my daughter provided to me. She found it in a flea market of all things. And I've had fantastic results with it. It's interesting in that it also has interspersed between the cards both the Viking rune symbols and also the Eastern I Ching hexagrams, which have things to say to you this month, as well as other mystical symbols, and of course the astrology of the particular card, depending on where it sits, also has things to say, but we shall get things underway for you to see what it has to say. I'm going to, because of the fact that the runes were often placed on wood, along with the Scandinavian and Viking mystical traditions, a lot of them are lost to us, but we've been able to piece together a fair bit over the years, and so if they do come up, we'll see what they have to say. The spirit has been infused, and so this is going to be quite a naturalistic reading today. Maybe in some respects different to the type of reading which I normally give, because this deck of cards actually elicits within me a different sort of response to that which very often I get from other decks. There is the Empress for you, Cancer. What else do we have? What's this? This is the Eight of Stones, otherwise known as the Eight of Discs. Look at the back of these cards, incidentally. Isn't that an interesting piece of artwork there? Let's see what else there is here for you. This one looks... is this coming out? What's this one here? Just bear with me 1 second. There we go. The Five of Wands. Oh dear, a new year. Plenty to do for you, plenty of things to get organized, and we'll just take that from the top, whatever it happens to be. The Daughter of Swords in the South. There's also North American mystical tradition involved in these cards, as well as ancient Egyptian. That card, for example, has the depiction of Isis, who was the mother of Horus in Egyptian mythology and wife of Osiris, who was resurrected from death. And there is the sun, with both a rune and a mystical lettering on it. Okay, why don't you come and sit down next to me? Let's have a look at these images together and just see together what it is that they mean for you. Okay, let's have a look at these bad boys. Wow, I'm getting a real feeling of happiness, joy, and a turning point in your life just coming up to me from this spread. But let me go first to this card. You drew it first. This is the Empress. Now, this is actually quite an interesting card for me because of the mystical symbology that's upon it, and I'm going to deal with some of the mysticism, and then I'm going to tell you the predictions that it makes for you during the month of January. Now, what do we have here? The Empress. Well, what have we got? We have up here, as I mentioned, a rune, and here is a mystical symbol which deals, which I'll get to in just a second. And below the eye, at the top of this card, is a woman. And behind her is a door. Now, this door for me, well, actually, before I say that, the door here beside it has fish scales by the look of it, and on top of here is an arch which is reminiscent of religion, I suppose, or of churches. For me, it's... Well, I have nothing against religion as such. I mean, I'm spiritual by nature. I suppose that religion is for people who are, in my view, and without any disrespect to them, religion is for people who are afraid of going to hell, but spirituality is for people who have already been through hell And certainly that is my case, but I won't go in and bore you with my personal curriculum vitae or life experiences, other than to say also that here is a scepter on top of which is a pine cone. Now, traditionally, the pine cone has related to enlightenment. It has always done so in mystical traditions throughout the world, and in fact even today, if one looks at the staff which is held by the Pope of the Catholic Church, on top of it sits a pine cone, and here we have a snake which also relates to transformation and pine cones and change. Now we have here, I'm looking at these fish scales and I'm looking at this door. Let me put this question to you. A fish which is swimming in the sea, does it perceive anything beyond the sea? Does it even realize that it is swimming in water? Or does it just move from one point to another? This door, I think, suggests the apparatus through which the soul goes after death of the physical body and returns at a later time to incarnate in another physical body. Well, that's all very interesting. What can we say about it? First of all, we also have here the glyph of the planet Venus. Venus is very much associated with this card. Venus, of course, being the planet of love and of beauty. Now, I mentioned, didn't I, that I'll probably come in again so you can have a look at it. I mentioned, didn't I, that there was Nordic runes. Now, the runes were discovered by the king of the Norse gods of the Vikings called Odin. He hung upside down from the tree of life for 9 days and 9 nights, neither eating nor drinking, and he had even pierced himself with a spear. His gaze was downwards into the Well of Erd. The Well of Erd was inhabited by creatures, women known as the Norns, and they wove the fates not only of women and men, but also of the gods themselves. So you might take the view that women are indeed the most important creatures in the entire cosmos. Anyway, Odin spent gazing down into that well for 9 days and 9 nights, and suddenly the runes made themselves available to him. He could perceive their shapes. Now, the runes were not just symbols for human sounds that we might use in conversation, but they were also symbolical objects which provided a window into knowledge of the cosmos and beyond. And this one for me is the Norse rune Wunjo, and this is the rune of joy. It tells of happiness coming into your life. This rune indicates success. Cast with love-related runes, it can indicate a deep affection and lasting emotional happiness, I think. If there was a question that you have in your mind regarding the object of your affections, then this rune may well represent that person, and some activity with this person will have happy results. I think pleasure through your work is also indicated by this rune, and this is especially true if you have artistic or creative work that you do. Now, interestingly, let's have a look at this symbol here. Now, this symbol, interestingly, we saw a door here, and here we have another symbol which itself means door. Let me pull this back so you can see it in context with the other cards. Yes, it means door or gate and indicates resistance and the state of selflessness and humility really needed to pass through it. It indicates how to pass through the gates, to know one's own mystery of being, and return to the one source of all creation and being. Now, this Doleth, or Dalet as it's sometimes called, is in the shape of it's really like a bent-over man or a bent-over woman, signifying the humility and receptiveness. It represents the breaking down of the ego necessary to realize your inherent connection to the Creator. It's also the structure, form, and work required to receive benefit from the divinity. This can also relate, I think, to the poor man, the poor woman who receives benevolence from the Creator, and the realization that as humans we have nothing of our own, but are entirely dependent on the Creator, and that every breath and movement is given to us from it. Finally, I think that it represents structure. Its form of a horizontal and vertical line represents a grid, really, giving structure to the form. It's sort of shaped like a stair step, isn't it? You'd know that by your stair step exercises. The structure and overcoming of resistance needed to learn. And I think it indicates a strong will, diligence, perseverance, and patience, and the ability to concentrate. Really, really good. Really good. Well, I call the Empress the daughter of the mighty ones. Venus is all over her. She's the wife, of course, of the Emperor, and the types of things I think that it indicates is that I think that you may well hear of a pregnancy during this period. I think it's certainly going to be the case that you'll become in touch with the beauty of your life. It may well be that you are exploring a relationship with your mother or with a maternal figure, or you may be acting as a maternal figure, providing guidance and counsel to somebody else. Certainly, I think it indicates that you'll have a very empathetic and caring personality. And it reminds us that spirituality is expressed from the heart and not from the head. You know, I don't know that God is found in a church. I think God is found as much in the bathroom as it is in a church or a synagogue or a mosque. So just being aware of the divinity, that's real spirituality. And I think that this is a time where you'll be nurturing others. And I think it's also a time for you to nurture yourself, because you do give so much of yourself to other people, don't you? I mean, I think it's the case that really you run yourself ragged, and this is a period where I think that you get the opportunity to recuperate from that, from the ability to receive, which is a great thing. I'm just having these words that are coming through, and it is, you are about me and through me. Your kisses are all at once in all places. The moist folds of your skin are open and engulfing and devouring the whole of me. Yet I am the gate, and the shaft of your burning and luminous love impales me and rips me and feeds me, even as your mouth, your touch, your womb swallows me up. I think you'll be quite service-oriented during this period. I've had this affirmation in mind, and it is, I am filled with love and beauty. I give and receive wisely. I realize that the capacity to receive is equally as powerful as the capacity to give. It's a highly creative time for you, and I think it's one for you to own your leadership ability. Yeah, really much a time to nurture yourself. And quite interestingly, I don't think that this is a time that other people are going to perceive you as being either intellectual or emotional, but really you'll have a very good balance between the two. And this is a particularly good card and great card for women. Let's see what's next. Where shall we go? We shall go to conflict. Yes, conflict. Well, let's get the vision in on it a little, shall we? The first thing I'll say about this card is that it has the number 5 on it. Now, for me, mystically, I have the planet Mars associated with 5, and numerologically, 5s can relate to chaos. They can relate to exaggeration. They can relate to some turmoil. In the card itself, we have a rock, or a series of look like a big rock going up that looks kind of phallic in a way. Well, you might say everything looks phallic in some sense if you're of that type of a mind, but in this case, I don't think that is so. But I'm getting very much sort of an energy of creation here, even though the card is by the artist called Conflict. I'm actually getting a different feeling to that of conflict. And this sort of depiction at the top of the rock almost looks like the human brain, doesn't it? These wands, now I know they're drawn as spears, but they are wands because it's the 5 of wands, and wands is the suit of fire, and we see flames coming from each of the wands of these here. Now, I mentioned that we were going to look at some I Ching, and here is an example of I Ching that we can have a look at. Now, I Ching it's probably the oldest set of divinatory magic, I suppose, that the world knows. And first of all, I'll say this, is that it's made up of a number of lines which can be either broken, which represent yin, or the female principle, or unbroken, which represent yang, or the male principle. Now, they can be read line by line, or they can be read from different lines together, and very often they're read in two sets of 3 lines. But I'm going to look at this as a whole. Now, what do I have here? I've got a yang, a yin, a yang, 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 and a ying. Well, okay, that pretty much means for me, and let me pull the card out so you can see it again, that I Ching hexagram really for me is known as ko, which I suppose means molting. You know how an animal molts? Or it can mean revolution. Anyway, the action is about transformation. And this ko describes a situation that has come to a point where a change in thinking or action has become necessary. Now, there is a joyful lake in mystical tradition in the East, which has a fire burning beneath it, which in this case brings the situation to a boiling point, and it transforms in the same way that water can be transformed from liquid into steam. At the same time, ko is the image of how animals and reptiles shed their skin in cycles, don't they? You know that. Now, there may be nothing left about the situation after it goes through a revolution almost in a way, or a change. But this hexagram to me is suggesting that sustained effort with nothing else will be futile, because a complete transformation of something is necessary. Now, this is the perfect time of year to do this, and you may already be going through this. Now, this doesn't mean to say that you need to throw everything over in your life. This can just mean into some particular area of your life. And January is the time, of course, of New Year resolutions. So it doesn't surprise me that it's come up in this reading for you. But what we have here is that there is an actual real transformation. You've actually got to do it full. You've got to go all the way, not just bits and pieces. Sometimes there can be a sort of a type of a fear that accompanies the change because the new path is unfamiliar. There is always some element of increased self-knowledge available when this symbol is drawn, I think. And what it also says is that molting, or the changing of your skin, can show that you may have conformed to a situation that did not tap who you really are. As you open to the transformation, you can
your debut into authenticity. Whatever worked in the past will no longer do so, and you must be open to yourself, to deep and powerful change. And change is good. Sometimes, I don't know, is there some sort of an unhappiness that attends you? Unhappiness is usually viewed as a negative feeling, isn't it? But really what it is it's the heart sending messages about the need for change. Therefore, even while the previous type of joy might have evaporated, then like rain, it will return. There can be excited energy generated once you make the commitment to change. And in life, we don't always know what we want until we discover what we don't want. This symbol is purely focused on truth, authenticity, and the discovery of what it really is that fulfills you. Now, astrologically, what I have is Saturn in the first decan of Leo. You know, the 23rd of July to the 2nd of August? I think, by and large, it has to be said that Saturn and Leo don't really sit well with one another because, well, if you know Leos, they like to be creative and they have no hesitation in expressing themselves, do they? While Saturn as a planet is cold and dense and wants to set boundaries and limits. I've also got this fire associated with the number 5 by virtue of its association with Mars. Now, as I say, I have Saturn in the first decan of Leo. Well, Leo is a fire sign in the fire suit of Wands, and added to by the energy of Mars, by the number 5, what we have is a situation where Saturn comes in, tries to dampen down all this, and we get a sort of an astrological discord. But this astrological discord is the perfect underpinning for the messages that were coming to you from this I Ching hexagram that's here. And these things really nail the situation by and large. And so what I'm saying is that there may well be something which goes on in your life that you say, well, look, I am changing it. I'm going through this process of change. So don't be concerned about any conflict between Leo and Saturn. It's just that I happen to notice that they are there. Because sometimes conflicts are really positive, like changing yourself, going on diets, getting some exercise, eating better food, improving yourself, learning things. I've got to say also that this 5 of Wands can sometimes point to competition with people who have really similar qualities and experiences as you do. And it may be that you haven't had to face the fire of competition before, but now you will learn what it means, and in particular, what it requires. But I'd say go step by step, take everything a little easier. And I'd have this affirmation in mind, and it is, I am more and more capable now of expressing my feelings and my creativity in my life and in my work. I am more and more capable now of bringing about the changes which I need to bring into effect to improve myself as a person, because you have this energy behind you. Well, then we have this lady who has popped up for you, the daughter of the swords in the south, card entitled Isis. Isis was really one of the most important goddesses in ancient Egyptian religion. She was the wife of Osiris, and they were the parents of the very famous god Horus. Now, what she has here is, here falls like a waterfall, doesn't it? And here is an asp, by the looks of it, or some sort of a snake above her third eye, which you have as well, incidentally, the spiritual eye. She was a goddess of protection. So she brings protection to you during this period. She also is about nurturing and developing friendships. She's also the goddess of magic, and she's also someone who's very cunning and able to get her way. Now, who might it be also? Is there someone who may be in your life at the moment, a Capricorn, a Pisces, or an Aquarius, I think? This is a woman, although court cards can be of either gender, who is stern and revengeful, firm and aggressive, and skilled in the ways of the world, I think. Now, what I think that she's saying to you is, first of all, is that she represents Earth, and she's in the suit of swords, air. Now, Earth or air are enemies, and they weaken each other, so there's going to be some conflict in her nature. But the implication of Earth in air is that she deals with structures involving the mind in a very tangible way. That is, she, and therefore you, will be able to manifest your thoughts and make them a reality. Now, if it's someone else that you know, people of this type can sometimes attract troubles, even though they're very skillful at dealing with practical affairs. I think it's the case that this is someone who actually can be quite intimidating, says what she thinks regardless of the consequences. She's the type of person who really also can be someone who throws everything overboard. I mean, everything overboard, but then in time, everyone's just astonished at why she's done it. But then over time, it turns out that she's done the right thing. I think what's important to say about her is this, is that she is, and I think that you will be, clever in practical matters, especially where there are controversies ruling. She's got a destructive way of analysing things and applying it, this woman, so just be careful that you don't tread on people's toes. Now, she can be aggressive and vengeful, so you need to maybe think about turning things down or toning things down a bit. She's very forceful and outgoing in her manner, but she does get ideas grounded in a very tangible way, and I think that's the case with you. Sometimes I get the feeling with her, and this energy is coming up with her, that maybe her moods cloud her mental clarity. And so therefore there might be a need for a bit of a mood filter in order for her to really make practical those ideas that she has. She's very good at sorting out problems for other people, and I think that you'll be able to do that, and people will be coming to you and saying, what's your idea about this? How should I address this particular situation? And you'll give them good advice. I think this is someone who follows their own bent rather than serving other people. This could be following the heart or following a lifestyle. Sometimes in this energy here, I sometimes get a bit of an entrepreneurial feel, is what's coming up to me. Yeah, very interesting people. I'd have this thought in mind, though. If you are feeling in a rebellious mood, say this to yourself: my rebellion is positive, constructive, and creative. Well, that's very good, and thank you for that, madam, and your messages for my friend here. Where else might we go? I think we might go here and have a look at this card, which is the Eight of Stones, entitled Knowledge. Well, that sounds very interesting, doesn't it? What can I do? Just having a look at here. First of all, there is what looks like an elephant in stone, doesn't it? Well, that definitely indicates wisdom to me. This rock coming up here, I don't know if you can make it out, but this is almost like in the shape of a temple that seems to be looking out into another world, which is looking out into the world beyond. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and here's the 8th, which is clear stone. So we have 8 stones which are material, and one which I'd say is sort of a spiritual one, which is going in here. And of course, down here we have our I Ching friend again, although this is a different I Ching. Now, you remember how I spoke about the yings and the yangs and how if you put them together, what they mean. Well, let me just have a look at that one and see if I can make it out. Yeah, it is really Hu Gua, which is really about adjustment. Okay, well, having looked at the I Ching symbol, let's pull the vision out so that you can see the other cards, so we can see what's important in relation to it. You just go up there for the time being. Now, what do we say when we see that I Ching? Hugua. I think it's about small exceeding, like exceeding things, but in a small way. And it's like using Eastern terminology. The flying bird brings you the message. It is not well to strive upwards, it is well to remain below. Great good fortune. Now, if you are able to keep a low profile at this time, I think, and stick to simplicity, this is saying that you will succeed. Now, I'll get onto the astrology of it in a second, and this will make even more sense. Since small lines here, these broken lines around the two yang lines, there's not a lot you can do in this situation at the moment except concentrate on small matters and wait before making your move. The principle of non-action is a lesson about succeeding without striving. Rather than take action, adjust to the changing times and conserve your energy. The hidden influence of critical mass in the universe also shows a type of instability that is growing through a transition where adjustments are required. I think that this is going to test your vision and ability to be centered in interactions with others. It was a time, I think, previously for you about establishing trust, and now you are called to step out of your normal routine of pushing your way out into the world, to stand beside yourself as a witness to unfolding events. The good fortune comes from witnessing the small things that are normally missed. You might volunteer your time through charity or make a sacrifice in a lowly position to arrive at where you would like to be later. Don't necessarily think too hard at the moment about where you are going, but look around you now and see where you are. Not striving means not trying, but simply doing. It means not looking so far ahead that you miss what is unfolding for you now. Striving upward is rebellion, I suppose the ancient mystics in China would say, whereas striving downward is devotion. Devote yourself to the work, and the rewards will come in time. Now, from the astrological point of view, well, from a tarot point of view, I call this card the Lord of Prudence. Astrologically, it's the sun ruling the first decan of Virgo. You know, that 23rd of August to the 2nd of September? Now, when we have the number 8 here, I have the association of Mercury with the number 8. And what's good is that because I've said the sun rules Virgo, when we have Mercury and the number 8 here, in ordinary astrology, Mercury is also the ruler of Virgo, and it is exalted in Virgo. So this is very favorable. And the sun in Virgo, well, what's happening is that the sun is energizing Virgo's hard work and attention to detail. So this is a time, I think, where, let things grow, plant the seeds of things, water them, settle back, don't run around, hitting the ground with a shovel and crying out, grow, let nature take its course. I think that you're going to need patience to develop something. Don't rush in as it's a long-term thing, and be prepared to bide your time and let it come to fruition. I think what this energy is doing is that it's really encouraging you to keep doing what you're doing, as it is eventually going to lead to success. Now, sure, it's going to require a lot of dedication and focus and patience, but as time passes, you're going to get closer to your goal. Now, I'll also say that it may not be apparent to you, but I can see from these cards around here that there are events which are going on in the background here which say that there are other forces at play which, as time passes, are going to bring you closer to your destination. But I will say this, though. You need to manage your energies between the different parts of your life. Yeah, absolutely fantastic time for you, I think, here. Now let's have a look at this card, which is the Sun, the Major Arcana. Well, what a beautiful position to find this card in. Let's have a closer look at it just for the moment, shall we? Here, here we have this rune card again, and here's a mystical lettering. Look, this flower almost looks supernatural, doesn't it? It doesn't even really look like a flower. And the way these trees are all lining up, that's not something that you see in nature as a sort of a path comes through towards this sun here. So I think that this is actually saying to us and saying to you that you really are now being pushed forward. You're being pushed forward in a way that's almost like fate. And you are supposed to go along this path, which is the sun is illuminating your path and it's bringing you forward. Let's look first to see what this rune says here. Now, what's that one? Well, that's Gibo, I think. And this rune refers to a partnership of some sort of a type, I think. Now, that can either be in love, or it could be in business, or it could be in some sort of activity which you're doing with other people, I think, which aren't business, but it could be a sort of a social activity that you're doing. But I'm getting very much a sense of a sort of a partnership, working with other people here. I think that this is also referring, and I'm getting very much the feeling here of a development in a romantic relationship. Now, this can extend to people who are partnered. Now, I don't mean to say you're going to rush off with somebody else, but I think that there will be, a positive development in your relationship with your significant other. And for those of you who are not in a partnered relationship, I think there's going to be an important development that occurs there. Could be positive, it could be negative. I can't really put my... I can't get my finger on it. I just can't make out the symbology that's coming up in my mind, but there is going to be something that's happening there. I think this also really indicates a commitment and a gift of some sort. It may be an emotional gift of love, or it may be a material gift given just when you need it. And I think that this energy from this rune often speaks of a gift that binds a relationship, a gift that is a symbol of shared love. Certainly, I think generosity of some sort is going to be present. And I think that this indicates a time in your life that is full of peace and contentment. Yeah, great. Well, let's have a look at this thing also, because this is very interesting, I think, and it has good things to say to you. Now, this basically is Reish. It is the 20th letter of the ancient biblical Hebrew alphabet. And it means head, leader, beginning. It's the symbol, really, of you choosing between greatness on the one hand, or I think degradation on the other hand. It really embodies in it, I think, the qualities of being a leader and not a follower. I think that what we can say here is that Reish is kind of like a container, and it represents, it contains within it the possibility of infinite exponential growth that's available to you at this time. It also represents, well, isn't it interesting, but it represents the constant transition. And we were talking about transition. I think we had transition that was coming up, from here and elsewhere, about this being a time of transition for you, and you, provided that you're committed to it. Like if you're going to do something, start and then go all the way, do it. But this represents, I think, a sort of a flow and changes in life. It's like a constant flow of energy breaking through, breaking down into pieces and building anew. Yeah. The Lord of the Fire of the Word. Yes is the answer to your questions now. This is talking about success and good fortune, optimism and happiness. Well, it's interesting because I had that real feeling of happiness and great things happening for you right at the start of the reading, didn't I? I think that what we can see here is that the sun is the source of life and represents abundance, and this is going to follow you during this period at present. The energy is going to get you through tough times. The sun will illuminate your path. It's like you're being driven to this. And look, I think you've had some trying times, haven't you? And I think what this is doing is it's saying that this is illuminating your path forward after what has been perhaps a trying time with something. It's saying to you now to embrace your goals and give it everything that you've got. And if you have had tough times, this is saying that things are going to get better. You can move mountains. I'd say this, that you should visualize the light and warmth of the sun in your chest and in your heart. For the next few days, remind yourself several times daily that the sun is shining in and through you. Have this thought in mind. I am in harmony with the divine light which fills and guides me. Well, that's the way it is for you this month.
Well, there you go, January 2020. I have to say this, that you were absolutely fantastic during that reading, and I loved doing it for you. I think this is going to be a great year for you, and have a fantastic January. And all I have to say is this, and remember always that you are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you again next month. Until then, bye for now.